This is Wildcat Country.
It's only right. The ball's in his hands. A milestone victory for Arizona. Simon says championship.
All the inside scoop on U of A athletics.
It's up for the end zone. Arizona has scored the touchdown. Wildcats win.
Let's go to work, fellas. Welcome to another edition of Wildcat Country. Eric Cohen and Shane Dale on what is another successful week in Arizona athletics. The softball team's in regionals. The baseball team continues to crush the ball. And we'll talk more about those later in the show. I just want to preview before you go any further. Our one guest on the show today is none other than the most popular person on Arizona's campus right now, Coach Adia Barnes of the women's basketball team. Really looking forward to catching up with Coach Barnes to hear what she has to say about the magical run that the women took Arizona fans and obviously themselves on in March and April. But Shane, let's start with the men's team. As recruiting has gotten interesting for them, and fans are starting to get on Tommy Lloyd's case for not landing Ty Washington and this Kaluma who just went to Creighton. What are your thoughts? Are the fans being too rough on Tommy Lloyd?
Well, just to recap for those who don't know, Ty Washington, local kid out of the Valley, picked Kentucky over Arizona. And then Arthur Kaluma, another top 50 recruit, picked Creighton over Arizona. Arizona seemed like they were in the mix for both, didn't get either. I think we're starting to see, Eric, the reality of hiring a men's basketball coach with no previous head coaching experience. No, don't get me wrong. I still think it was a good hire. I think Tommy Lloyd's going to do very well at Arizona. I think he's going to recruit well stateside eventually. He's recruited well internationally. He's still doing that. But in terms of national recruits, he doesn't have that yet. And I think the fact is, when a top 50 national recruit is choosing between a school like Kentucky, which is one of the top head coaches in the nation, and Arizona, which now has a guy who's never been a head coach at any level, that's a pretty easy sales pitch for Kentucky. You go out there and say, we'll play for John Calipari, who's won a championship and done this and that, or a guy who's never been a head coach in his life. And this wasn't a problem that Arizona had with Lute Olson or Sean Miller, who both had extensive head coaching experience and success in the NCAA tournament before even coming to Tucson. Tommy Lloyd doesn't have that, and that's not a criticism. It's just a fact. And the only thing that's going to cure that is time and wins, really. He's going to have to prove with the guys he is getting, and he still might get a couple more, that he can coach well and at least get these guys to the NCAA tournament, or at least get them in position to go if they're not eligible. That's the only way I think he's going to land some of these top guys in the future. It's kind of a catch-22. Well, you don't have experience. Well, I need experience in order to get these recruits. We don't have. But he's just got to work with what he's got right now and show guys, look, I can put together a great team. I can coach. I can't just recruit. I can coach. And it's just going to take time. That's all there is to it.
All right. Well, the first point that I have about Tommy Lloyd is look at how he did re-recruiting guys that were going to go into the portal. Kirk Kriisa, Ben Matherin. Those are two guys that are very important to Arizona's future success, and they were going to leave or talking about leaving, and Tommy Lloyd kept them here. So let's count that on Tommy Lloyd's recruiting prowess. That's number one. Number two, here's where I disagree with you about the Calipari versus Tommy Lloyd thing. Ty Washington's going to get more playing time at Arizona. He's from Arizona. He's going to be a star at Arizona. I think him going to Kentucky, sure, maybe they're going to be on the grander stage. I get that. But it's not like Kentucky basketball did anything this year. They weren't very good. They missed the tournament. Is John Calipari past his prime? I don't know. I mean, you can make arguments both ways. I was disappointed that Tommy Lloyd didn't land either of those two players that you mentioned, Kaluma or Washington. With that said, I'm also not going to hold it against him. He kept a good roster, mostly intact, with the exception of James Akinjo, who's off to Baylor, and he's replacing a national championship point guard. I mean, you can't really argue with that. I mean, heck, Remy Martin went from Tempe to Kansas. I mean, so you can't blame Akinjo there. I think Tommy Lloyd's done fine. I think he's going to get other guys to fill out this roster, and I think, Shane, as it stands right now, this is a tournament team, even though our buddy Joe Lunardi at ESPN has some doubts, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's got Arizona as one of the last 4 buys, which of course means absolutely nothing right now. But I do admit I look at it to see where he thinks that they're at, and other guys think that they're at. Look, you're right. He's done a great job with Kirk Kriisa and with Zulis Tabellis and Ben Matherin. I didn't even know if Sean Miller is going to be able to get Ben Matherin to come back. So that's important. I'm wondering, is playing time really as big a deal as we think it is? I mean, yeah, you want to get on the court, you want to be able to show what you can do. But if you can do that at even a 10 to 15 minutes a clip at a place like Kentucky, you think Devin Booker, who is basically the 6th man on that team, is one and only year at Kentucky. Is that as big a deal as we're making it out to be? Or do you want to go and play for a team that you think can make a big national championship run and you can make a splash on the big stage, even in limited minutes? So I'm asking the question because I don't know. So because I think if it was only about minutes, I think Ty Washington would have been an easy decision to come to Arizona.
Yeah, I think you can make the argument both ways. It just depends on the player. I mean, look at it in football too. You can go to Alabama and be a backup, or you can go start at 60 other, Power 5 schools. It just you have to. I mean, that's probably going over the top there, but it just depends on the player. And Ty Washington wanted the exposure that going to Kentucky has. I think Tommy Lloyd is going to be fine. I think he's going to do a fine job, and I think it is unfair right now for the fans to get on his case for missing out on 2 players. I think keeping most of the team intact from last year was his most important priority, and he succeeded. So therefore, I think Joe Lunardi will be wrong. I mean, eventually, I think Arizona is going to be a solid tournament team. I don't think they're going to win a national championship. I don't think, I think right now a second round appearance in the NCAA seems about right. Maybe we can revise those expectations closer too, but right now I don't think that's unreasonable to think that.
I think the evolution of Kirk Kriisa is going to be big. I know I've talked about Kirk Kriisa since the beginning before last season. I still think he's going to be a star. Give him time on the court. He can be the guy. I think he's going to be great. I think, especially with James Akinjo gone, he's got to step up in a big way. But I think they're a borderline tournament team. I kind of think they're about the same as they were going into last season. We didn't know what to make of this team. We had a little bit better idea now. But there's still some new faces, and some guys have left. A lot more that would have after Sean Miller left. Some of those guys would have stayed, like James Akinjo probably would have been at Arizona at least one more year, and maybe Jordan Brown as well. But I think that the NCAA tournament is the baseline for this team. I think that, again, Tommy Lloyd is going to have to prove, okay, I can win with these guys. And it's a unique situation right now because there are still a lot of good guys in the portal. It's not a common year because it hasn't been a common year. It hasn't been a common year and a half now because of the pandemic. Things are a little different. It's not too late for Tommy Lloyd to add more than an end-of-the-bench guy, a guy who could actually eat up significant minutes. And if he can do that, then maybe go 8 or 9. I think their starting 5 are great. It's after that I have a big question. If you can land at least one other guy who can eat up 10, 15 minutes a game, I think this is a tournament team.
So let's switch over to the women's side, where they have a little bit more pressure on their shoulders. And we'll talk to Coach Barnes about that here coming up. But they were the national runners-up. And I know they lost, obviously, an All-American in Ari McDonald, but they're still returning a significant part of their core. What do you think about their chances to repeat some level of success next season?
I think they're going to be a deeper team. I don't think you can't replace someone like Ari McDonald any more than the men's team is going to replace Derek Williams after his sophomore season, right? But they're going to be deeper. I think they're going to have more shooters. I think that it's going to be a more well-rounded team. You look at, and I'm going to butcher some of the names, but Aronette Vonleh, a 4-star forward coming in. You got this guard from Estonia, Anna Gret Asi, who, again, I'm probably butchering her name. I apologize. Because they've always recruited well internationally, just like Sean Miller recently did and Tommy Lloyd's doing now. Adia and Salvo do a great job of that. But also some big-name transfers. Coy Love out of Vanderbilt was a double-double machine. Araya Copeland out of Alabama, a transfer who's almost a double-double machine, almost averaged a double-double last season. Taylor Chavez, Oregon transfer, a guard who's going to help fill the void created by Aaron McDonald's departure. So are they going to have as big a star as Ari? Probably not. Are they going to have a more well-rounded team that can go 8 or 9 deep and can consistently shoot from the outside? And let's remember also Madison Connor joined the team early or late last season, a little bit earlier than expected. She's essentially a new commit as well. So, and she's a shooter. So we get her a little more involved, get her a whole season to work out with the team and get ready. I think this is going to get top 25 team again next season. I think anyone who doesn't have Arizona in the top 25 going into the next season because Ari McDonald left is making a mistake and not looking at the bigger picture, which is Adia Barnes has reloaded successfully for next season and beyond. We can talk about that as well. But I think this is a top 25 team, a top 4 Pac-12 team. Are they going to make the Final Four again? That's a big leap. But I think they're going to be better than a lot of people think they're going to be.
Anybody that leaves Arizona out of the top 25, fired. I'm just going to say, I mean, you right now at preseason, you don't go from number 2 to out of the top 25 by losing one player or 2 players. I'm sorry, but no, it's just they're going to be solidly in the top 25. Let's talk to Coach Adia Barnes, find out about the miracle run that they went on in March and April, and the prospects for the future here on Wildcat Country. When Shane and I went down to Tucson last month, we learned something that, well, I guess we confirmed something that we already kind of knew. The most popular person on the campus of the University of Arizona right now is none other than one Adia Barnes, coach of the women's basketball team, the national runner-up women's basketball team. Coach, first of all, thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on a wonderful season. I have to ask what everybody's thinking. Did you expect that to happen?
No, I didn't expect that to happen. I really didn't know what to expect. I knew that we had, Ari McDonald, our All-American, and Kate and Sam and Trinity, and we were going to be good. But I really didn't know how good. I didn't know how we'd respond. I didn't honestly know how we would do in a tournament because we had never gone there. Remember, the COVID year happened, so we were robbed of the tournament. So I wasn't really sure. If you would have said at the beginning of the year you're going to play for a national championship and you're going to lose by 1 point to Stanford, I would have said, not so fast. Slow down a little bit. But it was a great year.
I know, Coach, you've had about 6 weeks now to process that entire run, including the way it ended. When you reflect on it now, like you wake up and you get your day going, what do you remember most?
I remember like how much better we got throughout the year. So I just remember we were okay in the beginning. I didn't think we were playing great basketball. Everybody questioned our offense, and I just remember us kind of peaking. And then the Pac-12 tournament, we were okay. We weren't great. And then after that, we were like, what do we want to do? We want to do something special. And then we just kind of accelerated and caught momentum. So I look back at the year. I'm like, wow, we got better. If I look at our first games to our last, like light years better. But I think that at the end, we were clicking. We were playing for each other. We believed in ourselves and thought we could be anybody. And I think right place at right time and just got hot. And I think we were one of the hottest teams in college basketball.
Eric and I were at that spring football game, like Eric alluded to, and you and Coach Lloyd were introduced before the game, did the pregame. Well, it was supposed to be a coin toss and ended up being a tip-off. He received a nice ovation, Coach Lloyd. And then the ovation you received was off the charts. It sounded like a lot more than 5,000.
I didn't even notice that.
It was. There was a big difference. You ask anyone there, but I just got to ask. Between that and the reception you received returning home after the championship game, what does all that mean to you personally?
It meant so much. So obviously, looking back at that, I was devastated. Because, you look back at what you could have done better as a coach and, what you could have ran earlier, who you could have played. And so, hindsight's always 20/20. You would have changed 5,000 things. But I think so that was hard to just decompress and, just, reflect and be positive. Because you lost the national championship. It's a great season. But, we lost, by 1 point in the national championship. So I remember devastated on the flight. I think I didn't sleep that night. I watched that play over and over again, watched the game twice. And I remember sitting there, we were watching the game on the plane again, just looking at different things. And I remember landing in Tucson and then seeing all the fire trucks and all that. But we didn't win, so it was oh, that's cool. And then seeing all kinds of firefighters, policemen, sheriff, a whole bunch of people. I guess, everybody just arranged everything for us. And then that was warming. That warmed my heart for sure. But that wasn't all. So then we're on the bus and I'm, upset and just just down. I feel bad. And then I see thousands of people all along Campbell. I mean, all the way from the airport, literally from the whole way, people with fans, cars, with signs, honking their horns. And literally, I saw it a little bit, and I thought it'd be a little. And I kept on seeing more. The whole entire way. like the whole route. And then I pull into the arena to pull into the football field or stadium, and like there's thousands of people. When it was last second because our flights got changed, and it was like a work day, school day, so I was, I felt like, wow, they were so proud of us. So it kind of helped my broken heart. I was broken a little bit. I was a little devastated, to be honest.
But Coach, what you did is your team rallied the fan base, which really over the last, let's say, 6 months had some trouble with football, obviously, and that coaching, men's basketball, they've had issues, and fan base has kind of been up in the air, and you brought everyone together. What does that, when you think about that, what does that mean to you to kind of rally that U of A fan base?
Well, so like when you're in it, you're not really thinking about all that stuff. You're just kind of like in your season and you're like trying to win and go to the tournament. I was more thinking in tournament, okay, we haven't been here for 16 years. We need to do well. So I didn't even think about all that until after. And people brought it to my attention like, oh, you brought so much exciting or you brought so much pride to the city. I honestly, that didn't register to me until I started hearing that afterwards. And I was like, wow, because I didn't really know how to take it. I didn't know what was going through people's minds and COVID. I knew people missed us being at the games. But to have people say, you inspired the city, this and that, like that felt really good because I thought it really was a magical year. We did not win, but no one would have thought we'd be there. And we were like the team that just was the underdog. So I think it meant a lot to have all the love and support of Tucson.
So one thing that you went viral for after the UConn game was your speech to your team. I think most people, I'd say 98% of people that I came across loved it. I think you gained a national support because of it. But there were some haters out there. Just explain what was going through your head at that moment and what the impact has been since.
So at that moment, I didn't really care. I had something to say to my team, and I was so proud, and I was so happy the way we came out. We just like punched, and we played so good. We played together. We were tough. Our first time ever being there against a national powerhouse that's been there like every year. When they're not there, it's a shock. So I was so proud of that. We could have like been afraid and like been peeing in our pants, but we didn't. We were just like, let's go. So I was proud and I was happy. And so I brought them in. I knew to bring them in tight because I had something to say to them. So I brought them in tight a little bit. And then I just told them basically that no one believed in us. But look around. We all believed in each other. We all fought for each other. We did what we set out to do. Who cares if we were left out of promo, left out of everything? No one even counted us, but we're going to the championship. We got one more game. And I said, basically, forget everybody that didn't believe in us. And they were like, yeah, you saw the team. So it was a passionate, special, like I was loving on my team. So I wasn't going to apologize for that. Yeah, did I want to be like caught with the birds on TV? And it was actually that spider cam. So it was like that little camera that zoomed in on the wire. Like if I would have known that, I probably would have just did that in the locker room. But in that moment, I was so happy, and I was like so happy and proud. But you saw after I said it, they were all like, yeah, they were all going crazy because we did feel that way. It wasn't about UConn or anything. It was about us. And then like no one in the world thought we'd do it. So, and honestly, the funny thing is I saw a couple negative things. So I just got off Twitter looking at it, but not one comment from one recruit was ever negative. I had thousands of recruits, and like every single recruit that I talked to said, after that, I was like, I want to play for her. Like we got for the players, it was like awesome. Now as a mom and a role model, I'm a very good role model. I think that was a moment, but I was like thinking, if I'm like a mom I was like, yeah, I want you to coach my kid, because it's not like I'm doing that and cussing all the time. I just had a moment to tell them, hey, this is but it was about us. It was like protecting them. It wasn't like cussing at someone else,
Right. And if you did that all the time, they probably wouldn't have responded the way that they did.
Yeah, I never do that. If you see my demeanor on the side, I'm not like crazy. I'm not like cussing. That's just not me. So that's, I think, when I said it, they knew what I meant, because I could have used different words. I could have said, screw everybody. But at the time, I was looking at them in the eyes, and they were just like so happy. And I was basically like, screw everybody didn't believe in us. And I felt that. So I wasn't going to apologize for that, because I was loving on my team. And that was a moment with my team. Did I ever want everybody to see it? No. Did I want to be a meme on social media? Not really. But like, I felt I felt like I did the right thing for my team.
All right, so I have a list of questions for you here it's not on my list because you mentioned you're thinking about woulda, coulda, shoulda in that last game. That last play, Aries got the ball. I know she had to shoot it. I get it, but Stanford sold out
Yeah.
on her. Triple teams. You got Sam open. You got Bendu open. Is there any thought from you about maybe I should have given her the option to pass the ball there, or did Aries have to take that shot?
Well, I mean, you can always pass the ball. It's always an option. But it's like, it's not what I would recommend. But the problem is the play wasn't executed because then she wouldn't have been able to be triple teamed. So the timing of our screens were bad because Aries shouldn't have also caught it with triple teams because if the play was executed, if someone triple teamed, they would have a layup. So I think that it was just unfortunate. A play that we normally run and like a play that is a really good play that if it was executed right, she wouldn't have been able to be triple teamed and she would have caught the ball at the free throw line. So I think that was hard, thinking about that because I put her in a situation because it wasn't executed right. She caught it. That's almost an impossible shot over three people. Now there's other things like Trinity going back door, all those things. But in the heat of the moment, those are really hard things to recognize. And I think that you have to give your best player the ball in those situations. But if it was executed, it would have been a better shot.
And she still almost made it too, which was remarkable. So
yeah,
I was almost surprised it didn't go in because
I know, like a lucky prayer, but that's the hard thing. So as a coach, it's like, let's say I drew up a play for backdoor, knowing the area was going to get doubled. Thank you. And then for backdoor, to go to Trinity, and then if Trinity missed the layup, the whole country would have been saying I didn't put the ball in my best player's hands. So I think that it's always a hard thing, and it's funny. I had a long conversation with Steve Kerr about it because he had a similar situation with a play wasn't really executed. You lose because as a coach, you blame yourself, and it's hard. But then you look at the timing, but I can't simulate in practice a national championship game on the line with 6 seconds left. So I understood the stress and the pressure. They tried, but I think it's just hard. So we've never been there. So the next time we're in a situation like that, we're more prepared because we've had that feeling. So that just comes with experience.
So I know Aries obviously moved on, as has Trinity, to WNBA. You've got a lot of great recruits, transfers coming in. How do you replace someone like Aries McDonald, or is that even possible?
No, it's not possible to replace her. What you have to do is you have to have a balance. And I think that just me as a coach, I'm not going to find an Erin McDonald. I'm not going to find a Kelsey Plum, a Chantel Osar. Those are players you maybe get once every 10 years. So what you do as a coach, you want to have balance on the championship team because the championship team isn't so reliant on one player. I think that we will be good because we will have multiple players in double digits. So the goal as a coach is I want to have 4 or 5 players in double digits. I don't want one 25-point-a-game player unless she's awesome, like Aerie or phenomenal, and Aerie's so fast and can't guard her. But you want multiple players of 15, 17, 18 points. And because it makes you just, unpredictable and harder to stop because you shut someone down, there's 4 other scorers. I think for us, the nature of our team and who we were, if you shut down Aerie, we're going to have a hard time. And so I think that that's not, as a coach, that's not how you want your team to be. You want your team to be balanced. So, if Sam's having an off night, there's 4 other people, 5 other people that could step up. If Kate's off, other post players can step up. If Helena's not shooting the ball well, you got another 3-point shooter. So I think that that's the goal, and that's how I'm building the team. So we've added some really good pieces. And it's funny because Aerie called me a couple of days ago. She was like, oh, we didn't have all the shooters when I was playing. So it's kind of funny because now we're going to shoot the ball better, be a little bit better inside. But we also went to the championship game, so it's much easier for me to get the Araya Copelands and the Coy Loves because they just watched us play for a national championship, so they want to come here. And the kids are excited. A lot of kids watch the way I coach, and they want to play here. So we weren't getting those kids 2 years ago. So it's just completely different now.
So what has your life been like since the national championship game? You've been on NBC and a special. You've coached, been an assistant on Team USA, and you're getting, as you said, players that normally you wouldn't have gotten before. Just kind of talk about that whirlwind over the last month and a half.
Well, it's funny. So the USA thing I committed to back in November. So I think it looks like, oh, she went to the national championship and got, but I committed in November. So that's funny. So I was laughing. I was like, oh, people probably think I went and just got that. But it just wasn't released, so I couldn't say anything. I think the players just, we're a better team now. We showed that we were close to a championship, so players want to win. So I think it's just easier to get players. I think that we're on lists and on young lists and talking to players we didn't have a chance to 2 years ago or 3 years ago. But I think what made it more special this year that I want to point out is that all those players that went to the national championship with, they were all players that everybody said don't come to Arizona. So they were all the players when we were the 200-300th ranked team. Sam Thomas came here first year, won 6 games. Aries sat on the side and won 6 games. Like, they could have gone everywhere. So those teams chose us, and we were at the bottom. We were 11th in the Pac-12. So I think it's more meaningful. But now they left their legacy. They started the foundation. So now it's the better players coming that we don't want to be a team that's one and done. We don't want, oh, you went there one time because of a great player, now you're not going. So my motivation is to go back there and to try to win and try to build a team to win.
Yeah, I get that, and I think what you have done with, as Shane said, earlier in the interview, and even before we got on the air here, just what you've done over the last few years, coming from a 6-win team, taking, let's be honest, it was a dumpster fire when you got here, and you took them to one shot from the national title against a team, by the way, that blew you out 2 times during the regular season. So you're a huge underdog all these times in the tournament. The UConn game, though, that one, I don't think will ever be forgotten amongst U of A fans, men's, women's, anybody, of what you did. You never trailed against UConn, the ultimate powerhouse. Describe, like, what is now? How do you look back on that?
Yeah, no, I really honestly I haven't had time to really look back and reflect that much because it's been really busy. It's been like a whirlwind. But when I look back and think, we did dominate. I think that we just showed up to the occasion and we rose to the occasion. And that's why I was so proud, because we could have been like, oh, we're playing UConn, But I even look back at what game? No, the Indiana game was hard because I remember like, oh, they're pretty good. They're hitting all those mid-range shots. Then I look back. I remember before Texas A&M, I was walking. I was like, oh, they're huge. Like, they have these huge post players. These 6-foot athletic guards are like athletes. They're all athletes. I was like, oh, this is going to be a hard game. And then the UConn, I'm like, oh, I've only won 11 less championships than Gino and like 1,000 less games. Oh, this is great to play in the Final Four against him. Awesome. And then I go face Tara. The unfortunate thing is you don't want to play a team in your league because, and they're a better team than us. But play them in the league, you've already played them, 2-3 times. But then I thought, oh, statistics are in our favor. It's hard to be a team 3 times. But it's just, they're just a little better. They're a little better inside. They shoot it a little bit better. They're more experienced. So that was just hard. But, you don't want to play in the championship, a Pac-12 team, that kind of stuff. But great for our conference. But, from you want to play someone you don't really know, you just got to play them one time, right? And then you also don't want to coach against a Hall of Famer who is like one of the best coaches ever. But I thought that we did improve, like going from where we were against them and just where our program was to finishing right behind them in the Pac-12 and then to be in the championship. I think it's just a great accomplishment. We put Arizona on the map.
I remember we had Sam Thomas on right before the NCAA tournament, and she said how excited she and the rest of the team were to actually play teams outside of the Pac-12, which just makes it kind of funny you had to play one for the national championship. But I wanted to ask you about Sam because she announced at the big rally after the championship game that she'd be returning. What does it mean to have her back for another season?
So I've known since the beginning of the year. So I had to keep it on the DL, which was almost impossible. I wanted to tell people and I couldn't. So I asked her for permission to say it at the rally. But Sam means so much to the program. Just to have her here. And you look at Sam Thomas, she had like one other Pac-12, or I think we were her only Pac-12 offer. It was between us and Michigan. And so to see how she's evolved, she was only a post player when she came. Now she's our 3. Now she plays our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She's our team captain. Has the most prestigious athletic and academic award in the country, the Elite 90, which is only given at the Final Four for academics and athletics. She'll be an academic All-American. She's all districts. She's our Nike representative. She did the internship. She's our SAC president. She is like the ultimate like player that a coach wants to coach because of on the court and off the court stuff. I've never had to tell her something more than once. I've never had to remind her to be somewhere, to wear something, ever. She reminds everybody else. So, I mean, you want more Sams, and Sams are really hard to find. She's selfless on the court. She's selfless off the court. A great leader. So to have her back is very meaningful because she's going to help us get to that next level. And I think she has, and she's done that every year. So I'm just glad she chose us and believed in us when no one else did. And so it's funny to go on this journey with her. Because I remember ask her about her first year. She cried so much. She wanted to leave at times. She had probably never cried so much in her career. She had never lost so much. And then now to be going and fighting for a championship, I think it just means a lot. And she's working her butt off. She's getting better. Like, she wants to win a championship. And she'll help us win one.
My last question for you, Coach, and we really appreciate your time. I know how busy you've been, probably nonstop for I don't know how many straight days. Have you and Salvo and the kids had time to get away at all, or have you scheduled any time away just to focus on the family for even a few days?
No, we haven't had time. It's just been busy, recruiting, and then I'm gone. I'm gone for like all of June. So I'm leaving in like less than 2 weeks. And so right when I come back, the day after, we're straight into 11 days of visits. So like, because no one's been on campus, and normally in other places in the country, they're going to go on campus at the beginning of June and spread it out the whole month. Well, I'm gone till the 20th. So they're starting to come on the 21st. So visits. And then right after that, we go right into July recruiting. So we're recruiting for the month. So I'm going to take off. I put on the calendar like at 10 days in August, even if I sit at home and don't do anything but sit by myself, then that's just the time. That's really the only time because the players will work them out, and it's right before school. So that's kind of what it is. If you heard butt in the face, I didn't teach him that. His dad taught him that. We don't say that.
I think I made it up.
Okay, that's not what we like.
Both times we've had Coach Barnes on, Mateo's made an appearance, so this has become a traditional Wildcat country.
I mean, Mateo's working on his muscles. He needs to get in the weight room in the off season. Look, Mateo, show.
Well, Coach, we thank you so much for you and your team for making us so proud, in this, not only all season, but then in March and in early April. Just amazing, as I said, how you galvanized the fan base. You saw you heard the reaction, or at least we did, at the spring game, which was unbelievable. You are so popular these days, and we really look forward to seeing what's next in Arizona women's basketball.
Thank you. Me too. I'm just excited for next year to have the fans actually come back. I think for us, it's hurt us so much not being able to play in front of great fans this magical year. So I'm hoping that we can lead the Pac-12 in attendance, and I really think we can. And just sell out McHale and make McHale the hardest women's venue in the country to play in. So I'm excited for that.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, you guys.
What a thrill it was to talk to Coach Adia Barnes. She was awesome. And, at least we got the true story now about the double barrel salute after the UConn game. Thought it was outstanding, and so proud of Coach Barnes. Your thoughts, Shane? Anything that she said that kind of surprised you?
No, not at all. Although I think she's a little more candid than a lot of coaches are. She's talking about, second thoughts about the championship game. Would I have done this differently? I'm sure all coaches have those thoughts, but a lot of them won't mention in public. So I appreciate how candid she is, even after all her publicity. And I appreciate the fact that she's willing to join a podcast that's not, let's be honest, not quite nationally known just yet, when she's done a lot of national media as well. So we appreciate that. And I hope for her sake, like she said, that we can have packed arenas again starting next season, full attendance. And we need to do an over-under, Eric, on how many fans we think are going to be averaged at a women's basketball game at McHale next season, because I think it might be close to 10,000.
Yeah, I would put I'd put the over-under right now at 8,500, and I think if the first game, no matter who they play, is not a sellout, it's an embarrassment by the fan base. I'm just going to say that. Shane, we have a couple of teams getting ready for the postseason. I know it's time for one of my favorite times of the week, and that is your Arizona Sports Roundup. So give us what's going on with everything in Wildcat athletics.
Well, I want to congratulate the men's tennis team on a heck of a run. They came literally just a few points shy of upsetting number 3 ranked Tennessee in the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament a couple days ago. Heck of a run, their best run in some 40-odd years. Congrats to Coach Clancy Shields and the entire team on a fantastic season. Hopefully they get another run going next season. They almost did sort of what the women's basketball team did and come out of nowhere and make a run to the Final Four. But a great effort by them, and congratulations on a fantastic year. Men's golf is currently in the final day of NCAA regionals as we record this. They were 10th in their 13-team field after 2 rounds. Women's team begins its NCAA championships tournament on Friday, so best of luck to them. Baseball team has won all 4 of its games since we last recorded. They did what they were supposed to do, swept a bad Washington team, although that 17-16 game on the first game of the series was one of the most wild games I've ever seen. Then they run-rolled New Mexico State the other day, Tuesday night specifically. Baseball America currently has them as the number 4 overall seed for the regional tournament, which means they would host the regional and then host the super regional if they make it that far. So they'd stay home all the way to the College World Series should they get there. Now, they travel to face a very good Oregon State team in Corvallis this weekend for a 3-game set. They wrap up their regular season back in Tucson against Dixie State, as we all predicted. So 6 games left. You figure if they at least win 3 of them, at least get 1 at Oregon State, they should be a top 8 team. Their RPI is number 5 or number 6, depending on what day you're looking. So a great season that's continuing. Also want to mention 4 Arizona track and field athletes who took home individual awards at the Pac-12 championships last Sunday. Johnny Blockberger, my favorite name for a current UA athlete, the men's 400-meter champion at Pac-12 championships. Jordan Geist won the men's shot put. Samantha Nanig won the women's shot put. Justice Somerset won the men's high jump. Blockberger was, I almost said Blockbuster, that's how old I am, was named the Pac-12 Freshman of the Year, and Geist was named the Pac-12 Field Athlete of the Year. So big congratulations to all of them. And finally, I want to mention softball, Eric. Arizona dropped 3 of 4 to second-ranked UCLA last weekend, although our guest last week, Alyssa Denham, she had a great outing in the Wildcats' lone win in that series. They did earn the number 11 overall seed in the NCAA regional tournament. They will host Villanova, Ole Miss, and UMBC in the Tucson regional beginning Friday. Arizona opens that tournament with a game against UMBC at 5:30 p.m. on ESPN3. Now, I know there's been a lot of complaining, including from Mike Candrea, about where Pac-12 softball teams were seated in regionals. I think, and I'm going to get some hate for this, but I think some of it's overblown. Okay. And I know his point was, the Pac-12 needs to advertise itself a little better and put itself out there a little more. And maybe they do. But, I actually think Arizona was seated about right. They went 12-10 in Pac-12 play. They had an RPI of 11. They got seated 11 overall. Okay. Washington was seated 16. They had an RPI of 16. ASU had an RPI of 14. They got a 15 seed. UCLA had the top RPI in the nation. They got a 2 seed. They probably should have gotten a 1, but not that huge a deal. The only team I felt that really got hosed was Oregon. They finished 3rd in the conference, had a nearly identical record to Arizona, RPI of 15, and they're not going to get to host a regional. They weren't a top 16 seed. So overall, yes, I think the Pac-12 was underseeded, but not by as much as I think some people think they were.
I think that's a good take, and I appreciate that. Now, you obviously probably follow softball more consistently than I do across the conference. So I understand the frustrations from Coach Candrea and everyone else. I think UCLA, what I saw of them last weekend, they're just an absolute powerhouse. And I think if they're not in the national championship series, I would be surprised. But I think the ultimate question at this point, Shane, do you think percentage on Arizona making it to Oklahoma City in the College World Series or in the Softball World Series? What percentage would you give these girls to win their first 2 rounds and advance there?
I give them 50-50. I think the Pac-12 is the best conference, in softball. Maybe it's a little closer than it used to be, but I still think it is. I think that it's kind of like women's basketball, that there are so many good teams and they all beat up at each other for a while. Arizona beat pretty much everyone they were supposed to beat. They lost. Every team they lost to was better than them for the most part. So I put it at 50-50. They're likely not going to be able to host a super regional if they get there. I'd be shocked if they didn't at least get there. But I think it's a coin flip. I think it's hard to say. It's hard to compare apples to apples when you've played your own conference so much. But I think that I don't think they're going to win the national championship. I think beginning of the season, I thought that was a possibility. Now I think sneaking into the Women's College World Series is probably the ceiling for them.
Yeah, I think if they get there, Shane, I call it successful. I just haven't seen enough from this team lately to actually believe they're gonna be able to do that. Now, I fully expect them to come out of this weekend and advance to the round of 16. I just that 3-game series next weekend, I have my doubts. They're a great home team, but when they have to go on the road, they're a thoroughly an average road team, as we talked to Alyssa Denham about last week, and that's very concerning as far as I see it. But best of luck to the women's softball team. We're going to talk about a lot more about them next week. Hopefully, them advancing to the next round. So finally, Shane, want to talk about the new Pac-12 commissioner. His name is George Kliavkoff. He came from MGM. He was kind of their president of entertainment and sports, MGM Resorts. I was critical on Twitter when the name came out last week. I'm like, who the hell is this guy? And trust me. And I actually think the Pac-12 will be in a lot better hands than they have been with Larry Scott. What are your impressions, Mr. Kliavkoff?
It kind of reminds me of ASU hiring Ray Anderson as their athletic director. A guy who came from a kind of a different world. So it's kind of a lot of times in the coaching world, the coach who got fired, the next coach who comes in will sort of be the opposite and their goal will really fill the specific void that coach left. And this time with the Pac-12 commissioner, advertising itself, promoting itself, getting the Pac-12 network on DirecTV, Larry Scott failed in all of those categories. And so you're bringing in a guy who knows how to promote and who knows how to get deals done. So from that perspective, I think it was a savvy hire. How he's going to do with the rest of it, I have no idea. But it reminds me of Ray Anderson at ASU. Bringing on, it's a hit or miss. It's kind of like bringing on Dennis Miller on Monday Night Football, or bringing on Ted Lasso to coach a Premier League team. I know that one's fictional, but anyway. So it's completely out of the blue. Am I mad about it? No, I'm interested to see what he's going to do, and I think the Pac-12 could do a lot worse.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see, especially from a TV perspective, with the new Pac-12 TV contracts up in the next few years for football, because that's the big money sport. Let's hope we get better time slots, not as many of these crazy 8:30 starts that all of us hate, especially me who has to drive back from Tucson all the time. Let's get better windows, and I hope, George, get Pac-12 Network a better platform. I assume the Pac-12 headquarters will move to Las Vegas. That's where he is now with MGM Resorts. I think it makes sense to be more centralized in the conference. So very curious to see how that plays out. One last thing, though, Shane. Kliavkoff has talked about Pac-12 expansion. So that's something that you and I will probably discuss at some point this summer, what schools might be best. So just kind of keep that in the back of your mind. Will it be the Pac-16 before we know it? We're used to calling it the Pac-10. Then it's been the Pac-12 with Utah and Colorado, and then maybe the Pac-16. I don't know. At some point, you got to think these super conferences are going to happen. So we're going to talk more about that. Shane, just want to give a shout out and thank our friends at All AZ Sports, the All AZ Sports Podcast Network for our partnership with them. Really looking forward to doing more things down the road. So we thank Sean Crespin and Chris Schubert for working with us once again, and we will. You'll see this evolve as we go along. And, what a great show with Coach Adia Barnes. Just a blast to have her on. And Shane, it's been a fun one. Give me one bold prediction for the rest of the week before we sign off.
Oh, quick one. Now, how about the Wildcats win the series at Oregon State?
I like it. All right, there you go. I'm not even going to make a prediction. I'm just going to roll with Shane on that one. For my co-host Shane Dale, I am Eric Cohen. Thanks for listening. And as always, bear down.